Eddie Jones praises Lions' composure. Owen Farrell's impact versus Wallabies. Rugby analysis. What a thrilling second test match. Eddie Jones praised the Lions as the best in the world and highlighted Owen Farrell's enormous impact against the Wallabies. This game was a spectacle of rugby, showcasing high levels of physicality and significant improvements from the Australian side. However, it also demonstrated the Lions' remarkable composure under pressure, sealing their victory. But here's where it gets controversial. The Jac Morgan clear-out dominated the conversation, overshadowing the brilliance of the match. Critics and former players took to social media to debate the legality of the move. However, if such clear-outs are banned, the essence of rugby could be lost. Jac Morgan executed the tackle flawlessly, low, with a clear wrap and an effort to stay on his feet. Young referee Andrea Pilardi handled the situation admirably, maintaining calm and making a logical decision. His performance was commendable. One of the key factors in the Lions' success was their composure, particularly in the latter stages of the game. Owen Farrell and Finn Russell's partnership was crucial. They effectively used wide passes to exploit a tiring and narrowing Australian defense. Moments like these, though subtle, are what often decide the outcome of a test match. The combination of Farrell and Russell was truly game-changing for the Lions. The impact of the substitutes, coupled with the decline in Wallaby physicality after the departures of Will Skelton and Bobby Valentini, was significant. Ellis Genge, in particular, was a force to be reckoned with, breaking through key defenders and creating gaps for Jamison Gibson-Park, Russell, and Farrell to exploit. And this is the part most people miss. There's been much debate about the most influential Lions player in the series. Tom Curry and Tad Bairn have been outstanding, but for me, the standout has been Jamison Gibson-Park. Despite strong competition from French players like Antoine Dupont, I believe Gibson-Park is currently the best scrum half in the world. His ability to select the right pass and create positive outcomes, even against a solid defense, has been pivotal to the Lions' victories. His physicality, especially in counter-rucking, further underscores his value as a complete rugby player. Looking ahead, the Lions must treat the third test as a knockout match, forgetting the previous two games. For Andy Farrell, securing an unbeaten tour would be a rare and historic achievement. For Joe Schmidt, the goal is to salvage something from the series, although the Wallabies have shown significant progress over the past year. This series has highlighted the ongoing debate between performance and results, and I'm confident the Wallabies will continue to improve, setting them up well for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. To stand a chance, the Wallabies need their big players to dominate physically. Will Skelton's presence was crucial in the second test, and maintaining that physicality for as long as possible will be key. In closing, I want to pay tribute to two legends of the game, Matt Burke and Richard Hill, who have been inducted into World Rugby's Hall of Fame. Matt Burke was a player of exceptional skill and timing, often compared to cricket's David Gower. He was a catalyst for the Wallabies' attacks and a key figure during their dominant period. Richard Hill, on the other hand, was the epitome of selflessness and physicality, much like cricket's Graham Gooch. His breakdown work was unparalleled, and his attacking prowess was evident in his try-scoring record. Both men are among the greatest to have played their respective positions, and their induction is well-deserved. What do you think? Do you agree with Eddie Jones' assessment of Gibson-Park as the best scrum half in the world? Share your thoughts in the comments. George Gregan, the ruthless path to rugby greatness, Wallabies' next step. George Gregan, to elevate teams from being merely good to truly great, a certain level of ruthlessness is essential. This is the next crucial phase for the Wallabies. Back in 2001, Australia faced a crushing defeat at the hands of the British and Irish Lions during a shocking first test at the Gabba in Brisbane. Similarly, in 1997, the Wallabies endured a staggering 61-point loss to South Africa at Loftus Versfeld during the Tri-Nations. However, following that initial setback, the Australian team regrouped and triumphed in the second and third tests, achieving their only multi-test series victory over the Lions in history. Remarkably, the same squad that suffered the loss in 1997 went on to clinch the Rugby World Cup in 1999, just 2 years later. A pivotal figure in these matches and throughout that era was George Gregan, a former scrum half and captain of Australia, who boasts an impressive record of 139 test caps. It's insulting. Andy Farrell passionately defends Australia's future as hosts for the Lions. https://rugby-union-1344433 British and Irish Lions. Andy Farrell says it is insulting to question Australia's future as Lions hosts. Lions make only 2 changes for the third test against Australia in Sydney. https://rugby-union-1344433 British and Irish Lions. Andy Farrell says it is insulting to question Australia's future as Lions hosts. www.skysports.com/rugby-union news.1657-1344365 British and Irish Lions. Blair Kinghorn, as Andy Farrell makes just 2 changes for Sydney third test. Not subscribed to Sky? Stream the Lions series without a contract. https://nowtv/sports-purchase-PMP in partnership with Howden. www.howdengroup.com/UKEN/Lions.UTM Source, Sky. He has witnessed numerous highs and lows in Australian rugby, and recently met with Sky Sports at his hotel in Sydney to discuss the current team and the delicate balance between making progress and remaining stagnant. Interestingly, when our team transitioned from being mediocre to good, we then progressed from good to great by winning many test matches by narrow margins. We also knew how to finish off teams when it mattered. A key aspect of our team's DNA was that we didn't aim to leave it until the last play of the game. Rather, we thrived in tight situations, often becoming more composed as the game progressed. That was the hallmark of our group. There was no secret formula. It was all about hard work, coupled with a strong sense of trust and belief among us. Also see, Lions make just 2 changes for Sydney test. https://skysports.com/rugby-union/news/1344365 British and Irish Lions. Blair Kinghorn. James Ryan come in as Andy Farrell makes just 2 changes for Sydney third test. It's insulting. Farrell's passionate defense of Australia as future Lions hosts. https://skysports.com/rugby-union/news/1344365 British and Irish Lions. Blair Kinghorn. James Ryan come in as Andy Farrell makes just 2 changes for Sydney third test. www.skysports.com/rugby-union/news/16571344433 British and Irish Lions. Andy Farrell says it is insulting to question Australia's future as Lions hosts. Even though you might not want to find yourself in that position, when it happens, it's like, all right, we've been here before, let's do it again. Ultimately, it's a resource you can tap into. It's a reservoir of positive experiences and execution. It may sound straightforward, but that's what is required. Recently, the current Wallabies team created an opportunity to win their match and overcome the Lions. That's the first step. Now, they must prove they can finish the job. You must eliminate the referee from the equation. Fixating on a single call is futile. Gregan made his international debut in 1994 and enjoyed Bledisloe Cup victories in 1994, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, and 2002, along with Tri-Nations titles in 2000 and 2001, and a World Cup win in 1999. Those were indeed glorious times for rugby union in Australia. He also captained Australia to a second World Cup final in 2003 on home soil, defeating the All Blacks in the semi-finals, where he famously reminded the pre-tournament favorites about the duration of a World Cup cycle, saying, "4 more years, boys." The Wallabies then faced the formidable England team led by Johnny Wilkinson and Mighton Johnson, who clinched the championship with a dramatic last-minute kick from Wilkinson during extra time. Gregan's accolades include induction into the Sport Australia Hall of Fame in 2009, the World Rugby Hall of Fame in 2013, and being awarded the Order of Australia in 2004, marking a career that stands among the finest in sports. In contrast to much of the media coverage in his home country this week, which has focused on the perceived injustice of Jac Morgan's clear-out at the final ruck before Hugo Keenan's last-minute winning try, Gregan firmly believes that the loss of the test should not be reduced to a single decision. This perspective offers a glimpse into the mindset of a true champion in his sport. "I'm not one to dwell on the referee's call during the final play. If you focus on that, and Joe Schmidt and the Wallaby team will be disappointed that perhaps a different decision could have been made. You could question every ruck." The Wallabies had their chance to win that game before that last moment. They led for 79 minutes, so they did everything but secure the victory. You could sense it was going to come down to the final play. The way the Lions rallied from being down 23-5 with consecutive scores before halftime was the moment when the Wallabies needed to score again and say, "We'll see you next week." Had they done that, I believe the Lions would have faltered. But if you give quality teams an opening, they will capitalize. The Lions seized the opportunity to clinch the series right then and there, and that's precisely what transpired. While it would have been great to have a decider, it was a significantly improved performance and a positive step forward. Naturally, there's disappointment in not being able to level the series, but that's the nature of sports. You must be ruthless when you take the lead. Don't allow them a chance to come back. Although it's easy to say that while sitting here in a comfortable hotel, it's a different story when you're up against competitive players who are also chasing their own piece of history. Teams that constantly talk about team spirit often lack it, or the love for AFL, NRL, and cricket in Australia has always been strong. The ebb and flow of momentum in sports is a phenomenon that is often difficult to articulate. Frequently, teams trailing at halftime are the ones feeling more optimistic. In some matches, a 4-point deficit in the second half can seem insurmountable, while in others, a 3-score lead can evaporate, leaving the outcome uncertain until the final whistle. For Gregan, the key is maintaining consistency in weekly preparations. There's a wealth of data available now, but so much of it is intangible. I find it amusing when people discuss team spirit. Teams that emphasize spirit often lack it. When you truly possess it, you don't need to talk about it. It's akin to saying, "We have a great culture. We never discussed culture." It might simply involve enjoying a Guinness in Ireland. That's the essence. You work hard for one another, and that stems from being part of a strong team. Is there a way to measure that? I'm not sure. There are actions that become habitual. Being honest with each other and establishing a standard becomes a consistent practice. It may sound mundane, but these elements are crucial. They become the norm. When you start witnessing positive outcomes from one another, you continue to pursue it. The evolution of our team was rooted in our consistent approach to preparing for and reviewing every game. You accept the results and learn from them. Sometimes, we scrutinized our performances more rigorously after victories. You need to do that. Otherwise, you might face a rude awakening, like arriving at the Gabba and getting thrashed in the first test. In Australia, the palpable passion for sports is undeniable. However, this narrative has also been highlighted in recent years alongside the challenges faced by the National Rugby Union team. Rugby league and Aussie rules football enjoy immense popularity, as does cricket. Rugby union must vie for its place in terms of media coverage and public interest. But Gregan asserts that this has always been the case and has not hindered success in the past. Rugby union will always maintain a presence here. We will continue to have exceptional athletes representing the Wallabies. This current squad is no different. I've heard plenty of commentary regarding Rugby League and AFL, but they have always been part of the landscape and always will be. There has never been a time when they weren't. Please use Chrome browser for a more accessible video player. Last week, we were in Melbourne at Hotel Collingwood, and they were only showing AFL Super Saturday. I remarked, "You need to show some rugby, it's the Lions." And they obliged by putting it on one of the screens. That's never going to change. It's always been this way, and it's somewhat amusing, but when a significant international event occurs in Melbourne, the support is tremendous. The MCG is a true sporting cauldron. Cricket has always been the #1 sport. That's a given. However, when the Wallabies play on the international stage, the nation rallies behind them. Once they start to turn the tide and achieve success, rugby becomes a hot topic. When Australia triumphed over England at Twickenham last year with Max Jorgensen's last-minute try, it was the lead story in sports news and made the back pages. Saturday's Lions match was similarly significant. The national team means a great deal to this country. We all want them to succeed. They will turn the corner, but there's always a desire for them to do so more swiftly. Last week at the MCG was a remarkable occasion, with over 90,000 in attendance. And being part of that was a privilege. It was truly incredible. Lions in 2001. I still vividly recall the sheer speed of those tests, even 24 years later. It's almost unbelievable that the Lions series in Australia, where Gregan played a central role, is now nearly a quarter of a century ago. When asked to reflect on his memories of the unforgettable first test against the then world champions, Gregan describes it as a day etched in his memory. They completely caught us off guard in that first match. The game has evolved, yet some aspects remain unchanged. The skill, speed, intensity, and urgency with which they started were relentless. They were on the offensive from the outset, with Jason Robinson scoring within the first 3 minutes, and Brian O'Driscoll doing what he does best. By the end of the match, our national anthem had been humorously altered to Waltzing O'Driscoll. There was red everywhere. I remember coming off the field and thinking, what just happened? We're playing at home? There's never been a weak Lions team, but that group was exceptional. All those English players went on to win the World Cup 2 years later. With O'Driscoll and Scott Quinnell in the mix, they dominated us in every aspect. We managed to score a couple of tries towards the end, but we were never truly in that test. As the series progressed to Melbourne for the second test in 2001, the Lions held a narrow 11-6 lead at halftime, despite their dominance in the first half. For many, the entire series hinged on a significant injury to Lions flanker Richard Hill just before halftime. He was knocked out by a brutal elbow from Wallabies center Nathan Gray. The Lions cried foul, but no action was taken. Gregan acknowledges that this was a crucial moment. The Lions won the first 3 halves of that series. We were barely hanging on in Melbourne. Honestly, Richard Hill's injury was monumental because he was a key player for George Smith. He was an incredibly talented and underrated player. We managed to win that second half. Suddenly, we found our rhythm, began to carry the ball effectively, and took control. Then came the epic third game in Sydney, which went down to the wire. It all came down to pivotal moments. It was an extraordinary series. The pace was astonishing. I remember it feeling like it never stopped. Both teams played positively, and the ball was in play a lot. It's fascinating. Even though it was 24 years ago, I still remember it vividly. There was a lot of contestable kicking because both teams were adept at dangerous set plays from lineouts, so no one wanted to kick it out. It was exhilarating, just another level. Those were the days when you'd be gasping for breath after 40 minutes, wondering, can I manage another 40? And somehow, you do. It's amusing how you find that extra energy. You can't afford to drop your intensity because they won't either. That was the essence of that series. Facing the Lions is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Unless you're James Slipper or George Smith, it's a unique honor to have been part of it. Nathan Sharp played in 3 World Cups in 2003, 2007, and 2011. With over 100 tests, and never face the Lions. As for his prediction for the third test, Gregan remains optimistic. I believe the Wallabies will conclude this series with a victory. The Lions have already secured a series win, so some of their players might be thinking about heading home. Let's send them home. Let's send them home 2-1. That's the mentality they'll likely adopt in front of 82,000 fans here in Sydney. Howden Insurance, proud principal partner and front-of-shirt sponsor of the British Irish Lions. Find out more here. https:// www.howdengroup.com/UK/Lions. UTM source, Sky UTM Medium, referral, UTM campaign, Lions, Sky Sports. Rugby's fine line, breakdown dominance or foul play. Connor Murray boldly states, if Jac Morgan's clear-out is deemed foul play, then the very essence of rugby as we know it is fundamentally altered. After the second test, regardless of whether we win, lose, or draw, we indulge in a celebratory drink. This has been the tradition during the Lions tours in 2013, 2017, and 2021, where all three series ended in a 1-1 tie after the second test. In 2013, we found ourselves in Noosa, enjoying 3 days of festivities. In New Zealand, we had a so-called recuperation camp in Queenstown. 4 years ago, we visited a vineyard before facing defeat in the final match in Cape Town. At the conclusion of a grueling 13-month season, a release valve is essential. Since Hugo Keenan's remarkable try secured the series in Melbourne last Saturday, it's clear the players have been relishing their time. It is entirely feasible for around 40 players to celebrate into the early hours of Monday morning, navigating their way from Melbourne to Sydney without causing any trouble, and still be ready to perform in the third test. I have a strong sense of how Andy Farrell has inspired them this week. They are now on the brink of making history. The last Lions squad to complete an unbeaten tour was Willie John McBride's legendary Invincibles. The 1974 Lions were only denied a 4-0 sweep against the Springboks because the referee called for a draw after 76 minutes. Interestingly, the loss to Argentina in Dublin before the current Lions embarked on their journey seems to have served as a significant motivational factor. Gary Keegan has also played a crucial role in this journey. His contributions to Irish sports over the past 2 decades, particularly with Irish boxers at the Olympics, cannot be overstated. Some may refer to it as sports psychology, but Gary operates without a strict rulebook. Unlike some performance coaches who stick to textbook methods, others, like Gary, bring a wealth of real-life experience into elite sports settings. Caroline Currid deserves recognition in this context as well. While Gary and Caroline have different methodologies, successive captains of Limerick hurling have acknowledged Currid's impact from the Hogan stand. In Munster, it remains a mystery why the higher-ups decided to part ways with Caroline after she laid the groundwork that led to our URC title victory in 2023. The key takeaway is that the players are in peak physical condition, fully capable of enjoying a few drinks before Aled Walters, the fitness guru for both the Lions and Ireland, fine-tunes them for the third test. The notion of selecting players based on sentiment would not have crossed Farrell's mind, which is unfortunate for those who have excelled on this tour. Josh van der Flier comes to mind. Tom Curry and Jac Morgan would not simply relinquish their Lions jerseys just because the series was decided at the MCG. Farrell will undoubtedly choose his strongest lineup for this match. While the players celebrated, they all recognized the significance of reaching their full potential in Australia, which means aiming for a 3-0 sweep. On the flip side, as recently as Thursday, the Australian media and Joe Schmidt were still voicing concerns about Morgan's clear-out of Carlo Tizzano, which led to Keenan's try. Tizzano's injury will keep him out this week, which is genuinely unfortunate. However, if the match officials ruled that Morgan's action was foul play, then the very foundation of rugby union as we know it would be in jeopardy. We might as well eliminate rucks and join the NFL, where large linemen engage in direct confrontations from upright positions. If you observe any game, At any level, you will witness similar instances of how Morgan removed Tizzano from the Lions' possession. Even World Rugby, represented by CEO Alan Gilpin, has stated, "It's play on all day long." Rugby is inherently a violent sport, while player safety is increasingly prioritized after being an afterthought for decades. The ability to dominate at the breakdown is what sets rugby union apart from American football and rugby league. I was taken aback by the number of former Wallabies who lined up to voice their objections. Even the esteemed open-side flanker Michael Hooper suggested that Morgan was going off his feet. We could easily find numerous examples of Hooper performing the same maneuver against Richie McCaw or Malcolm Marx to disrupt Australian ball. The breakdown is a perilous area of the game. Officiating it will never be an exact science. Morgan had a split second to act and remove Tizzano, the jackler, before he secured the ball. It was a legal move. The alternative would have been to penalize Morgan, allowing the Wallabies to force a deciding third test in Sydney. But we must choose between prioritizing sport or entertainment. Certainly, the series warranted a grand finale following Australia's meticulous analysis of the Lions' defense. But Farrell's team rightfully earned the series victory. It was precisely what we anticipated from a team coached by Joe Schmidt. In the first test, it became evident that they needed some adjustments against Fiji and the Lions after not playing together for 7 months. They finally managed to get rugby league star Joseph Suaalii into space, and he tore through the Lions' midfield to set up Tom Wright's spectacular try. At 23-5, with half an hour gone, it seemed we were in for a classic match. However, the Australians appeared visibly fatigued. Tom Curry and Hugh Jones scored tries before halftime, reminding everyone that the Lions are, by a significant margin, the superior team. Curry's hit on Suaalii in the 55th minute, executed from behind to dislodge the ball, felt like a pivotal moment of the tour. That forced error directly led to a 14-point momentum shift as Tyke Bernay crashed over in the corner just 4 minutes after Suaalii's knock-on. While the third test may be a dead rubber, no one within the camps will perceive it that way. The two coaches who have had the most significant impact on my career employ distinctly different strategies. If Schmidt treats his players like PhD students racing to finish their dissertations, Farrell views them as mature athletes with elite mentalities. Joe provides precise positional instructions down to specific blades of grass, while Faz encourages individuals to think independently. Neither approach is incorrect. They complemented each other remarkably well as Ireland's coaches, drawing from each other's philosophies. Farrell will undoubtedly have his sights set on a 3-0 victory, just as Joe will do everything in his power to prevent a whitewash. The outcome will undoubtedly shape the narrative of the series.